Hey, good evening. I'm really happy to have you here. My name is Daniel. I was a professional opera singer and beatboxer, and tonight we're going to be listening to Dan Vasc perform Black Wind, Fire, and Steel, featuring Luis Mariutti. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But this was a donation request from Simply Quirky, and they were saying that I haven't reacted to Dan in a while. And you know, that's true. It has been a hot minute since I've covered Dan, and I think that's a shame, honestly. You know, I've been so focused on all of these other musicians and branching out a little bit more and on a bunch of other things, including Patreon. But in the midst of all the chaos, I need to touch up on some artists that I just really dig, and Simply Quirky really reminded me of that. So thank you so much for this request, and I'm really excited to jump into this. I have no idea what to expect other than Dan's awesome style and voice. So let's just jump into it.
Full moon's light just calling me, my kingdom lies within. The mist is soul and lions harbor by the talisman.
Just right off the bat. First off, you get this incredibly consistent guitar line, and it is really difficult to create this kind of consistency. When you start off strong at a very particular tempo and a very particular dynamic, to maintain that rapid pace at that tempo, at that dynamic, without really faltering by any means, that is really tough to do on any instrument. And if you were to translate that to the voice, it could be something like a trill, where you're just doing ba-da-da-da-da-da, but do that really, really quick over a long period of time. That's really, really difficult to do, especially nailing it right in the center of the pitch every single time. But here in this case, it's just the finger movement and the positioning and the consistency, and it's so difficult. So all credit to the guitarist here. But with Dan just coming in with this very forceful, very powerful dynamic, roughly at this mezzo forte dynamic or medium loud volume, where he still has so much more room to grow throughout the piece, which he absolutely does. But also, his diction here is so crisp, and he has really strong cutoffs. Like, let's listen to it again.
Full moon's light just calling me, my kingdom lies within. The mist is soul and lions harbor by the talisman. The accuracy of battle
yeah.
takes me where the falcons fly. Immortal youth will strengthen me, I will never die.
Oh, I love the way he finishes die there. Die! And he just allows it to fall off and taper in that fall off. Oh, yeah. It adds this level of swag to the piece. Like, there's so much more character because he adds that fall off instead of just having another strong cutoff, which he absolutely could have done there and it would have been fine. But just the fact that he falls off there, it gives it this... He feels like he's much more in tandem with the guitar line, where the guitar line also had that slide, where because he has that fall off there, it feels like he and the guitarist here actually share this same atmosphere. So it feels much more cohesive between the vocalist and the guitar line. Oh, I love that.
A black wind, fire and steel. On a black wind, fire and steel. On a teach them all to heal. On a black wind.
Oh, I love the way that he's so soft there at the end. Black wind. And he just decrescendos into that a little bit and tapers out. Oh, it's so nice. I want to listen to that again.
Black wind, fire and steel.
Yeah!
On a teach them all to heal. On a black wind, fire and steel.
Oh! And ending so strong on steel instead of tapering. It adds such a strong contrast. Oh, it's so great, man. Yeah!
Powered by the hammers of the giants of the world, I can see titles, I'm the overlord.
Yeah! And that's what I mean by also the guitar line just going brown, just having that slide in there. He and Dan are just working so well together now.
Powered by the hammers of the giants of the world, I can see titles, I'm the overlord.
Yeah!
Single combat, I await my shadow brings and fear. Spikes upon my chariot, drive them with it. Born of
I love the way that he just bites down on these words. It adds so much more grit and coarseness to the musical line, and that's exactly what you want from this kind of piece. This grit, this coarse texture that's just so rugged to push through. But that's what this atmosphere is. That's what this atmosphere demands from its vocalist, and Dan's doing an exceptional job here.
spikes upon my chariot, drive them with it.
Yeah!
Born of black wind, fire and steel. Born of black wind, fire and steel. Born to teach them all to heal. Born of black wind, fire and steel.
Ugh!
I am an outcast on a path of no return. Punisher and swordsman, I was born to burn.
Oh my gosh. You hear the texture change in his voice there. It's no longer just a belled scream kind of atmosphere. This is really digging deep into this kind of sound. I have a buddy of mine who is the lead vocalist in a scream band, and he is much more capable of doing that sound than I am. Absolutely 100%. I wish he was here to demonstrate it, but that kind of sound and making that sound consistent and powerful and still be able to create real words, not just have the sound, but actually finish phrases with words, with diction in that register of your voice with that particular vocal style. Oh, dude.
I am an outcast on a path of no return. Punisher and swordsman, I was born to burn. Black wind always follows where my black horse rides. Fire's in my soul, sail is on my side. Born of black wind, fire and steel. Born of black wind, fire and steel. Born to teach them all to heal. Born of black wind, fire and steel.
Oh, I love that dominating pose. I'm so embarrassed. That's a bass. That's a bass. I need to go back to Music 101 when I can't even recognize instruments. Oh my gosh, I feel so embarrassed. I was so overwhelmed and inundated by the music from second one of the reaction. By the way, for the full reaction, go check out Patreon in the description below. It is officially launched. Please go check it out. But it was so jarring to hear this guitar line and have him look like he's not playing any of the notes that would be hit on the guitar, but instead playing these lower notes, which is the top of the bass there, just constantly. And I can't believe I didn't even process and register that that's a bass. I feel so silly. Regardless, though, he's incredible. I love how he just fills the frame with his powerful, manly energy. And he and Dan just, they riff off of each other so well. I love it so much.
Black
It's really incredible. So there's a lot that happened there that I'm going to touch on. So the first being that entire instrumental riff, where you had this insane guitar line, this really strong and powerful bass line, and these crazy drums just driving this momentum up into this powerful climax of the piece. And Dan uses that incredible energy generated by the instruments and launches into this new vocal texture of his voice. And now he's not only in this belt scream texture, but now he's doing it at a very high point in his mix. And his mix is just the in-between of his chest voice and his head voice. So when he's really up there and needing to not only remain up there in that particular vocal style with that raspiness, he has to be right dead center in the middle of the pitch at that extremely strong dynamic of forte fortissimo, or triple F if you're writing in sheet music, which is an extremely loud volume or dynamic. And he has to make that consistent throughout the entire musical cadence or the entire musical phrase. So, of course he's going to sacrifice a little bit of diction. Of course he's going to sacrifice a little bit of the phrasing that we've heard thus far in order to really lay into this particular atmosphere. And I don't blame him at all for sacrificing those things. I think right here in this moment, the atmosphere is of the utmost importance, and he executes it so well. And I love that so much. It's so good. I really dig that. So something else with that too is that the moment that he finishes that phrase, he goes black, wind, fire, and steel and repeats that constantly throughout this entire section here. And under normal circumstances, and I'm not saying this is a normal circumstance, this is an aberration, but just to make a point here, under normal circumstances in music, when you are repeating something, I find it almost always essential to have a different inflection in your voice every time you repeat something, so that there's not only a difference in music or momentum in the music and you can just float on that, but that there's constant growth happening in the piece, that nothing is ever static or stagnant. And a really good example of this would be a scene in Good Will Hunting when Robin Williams' character approaches Matt Damon's character and holds up a folder to him describing Matt Damon's abused past and says, "You see this? This shit? It's not your fault." And then he starts moving in, not only physically, but you can hear the inflection in his voice. "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And every single time he says it, the phrasing is just slightly different, whether he has a very slight pause in between words, or the volume in his speech shrinks a little bit, or has a little bit of growth in it to further emphasize a point. "No, you know, but you don't know. It's not your fault." Humans are very capable of recognizing these inflections. I made this point in one of my former videos where if someone you know comes up to you and says, "I'm not mad," then you can obviously tell that they're seething with rage. They're just not expressing it. There's a difference between the words they say and the inflection in their tone, in their body language, and we're capable of recognizing that more often than not. Some people are very good at disguising it, of course, but more often than not, we're, at least on some subconscious level, we're capable of recognizing these inflections. So translating that back to the music here, Dan is pretty consistent in this volume. He is consistent in this tone of voice. So the only real difference that we hear in this particular section is this constant momentum from the instruments and the constant momentum of Dan's voice. But there's no real growth happening. And I think that in this particular section is perfectly acceptable. We just came off of this extreme high from this incredible guitar riff, this outstanding bass line, these wild drums that immediately launch into Dan's incredible climactic vocal section. And it's so powerful and overwhelming that this entire section here, even though it's still at a loud volume, it's much more consistent and we can find our footing again. We can feel a little bit more grounded once again in this piece, so we can now further enjoy the rest of the piece in a way that isn't so... I was so lost from this point on that I just couldn't listen to the rest of the song because I was so overwhelmed. This is the point where we can ground ourselves again, where the momentum is still going, that he's still guiding us through the piece, but we're not as overwhelmed from all the stimulus from everything that we've heard. And I think that that is a really, really great compositional choice. But in this particular case, just execution. I love that slide. I know my timing was off because I was just still thoroughly impressed from how long he holds this. That's roughly 80 counts of a sustained note at a powerful volume with a coarse vocal texture, with reignitions of the note at the very end of it that are just as powerful as the sustained note itself. Go ahead and try something at home for me. Go ahead, take a deep breath, exhale it, take another deep breath, and slowly release air. See how long you can do that for. What Dan just did is an open ah vowel, so there's a lot of opportunity for breath to escape him, but he has such incredible breath control here. And the fact that he's doing this on a loud volume, this very strong dynamic, showcases how incredible his breath control here is. It's so easy to lose all of your breath in loud dynamics because the louder something is, the more breath you expel, at least on a subconscious level. So to have this awareness and to create this dynamic while also being able to conserve your breath and know that you are going to really push into it at the very tail end of it and keep that consistent, have an actually decent vibrato in that as well, and have enough stamina to create a really consistent, with the rest of the piece, fall off taper. Incredible vocal work. That's probably one of the most compelling vocal lines I've heard in a really, really long time. I am so dazzled by that. I want to hear that again. I want to hear that. It's so incredible. I'm blown away. Absolutely blown away from how incredible that is. To be honest, I don't even know I could produce a sound like that. Not even just in that particular vocal texture, but that elongated run at that dynamic in that particular register of my voice for that length of time. That's really, really incredible stuff. Amazing work here, Dan. Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say, honestly? It's just so good. Such a powerful song. From second one to the very end of the piece, just a wild ride. All the way through. So much intensity and power. But just in terms of the arrangement itself, it's so sturdy, where the instruments themselves carried so much of the momentum of the piece that gave Dan so much more liberty to stylize the vocal line in a way that's so richly and authentically him that it's just so good. It was so good. Dan, brother, that was sick, dude. So sick. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. If y'all liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you didn't like it, please leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments below. I do read all of the comments, even if I may not heart a reply to all of them, so please just know that your comments do not go unnoticed. My live streams are currently Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am currently developing another day to do live streams where we might do something a little bit more different. And I will most likely create a community post about it, but we'll see what happens in the future. Also, if you guys haven't heard yet, my Patreon is officially live. Please check the link in the description below for that so you can get full uncut reactions and early access to music reactions at the lowest tier of my Patreon. And all of my higher tiers have different content as well, and alongside Patreon exclusive music and other varying types of content that I am so thrilled to be able to create for all of you. I want to take this time to appreciate all of you for being here watching these videos. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see all of you in the next video. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone.